Hello everyone and welcome to our literally speaking, this is the 49th webinar we are having. Can you believe that? 49th webinar. It is like we are nearing our diamond jubilee in webinars. We've been doing this for more than 4 years, and today's webinar is something that we've not done on these lines earlier, and this is on ISO 27701 and the PIMS. We'll look into that as we go around. Like, there is many people feel PIMS is different, 27701 is different, or many people feel 27701 is PIMS. So before we start off, we have a healthy mix of audience today, and let me look up the list of attendees. Quite a few are already our clients. So thank you so much for gracing us with your presence today. And okay, I'm so glad you could join. Thank you again. Okay, so coming to the main point, how many of you have actually worked on setting up a PIMS, or how many of your organizations already have PIMS in place? You can just message me privately, and no need to maybe share your company name in case you're not comfortable. It is okay. I'm just trying to get an overall understanding of the audience breakup. And in case you're watching this on YouTube, drop in a message on the comment section, and if you have any questions, I'll take it up from there. All right. So how many? Okay, there have been a few who have done it and who have had a PIMS in place. It's nice. Okay, so people are talking about PIMS. That's what I've seen, and not all have already done something in this arena, even though many are working towards it. So yeah, so it's a catching on concept, guys, especially in India, as we are looking forward to having our own data privacy laws, hopefully in the near future. But for other countries, it's already in place. But again, having a privacy like a GDPR or a HIPAA in place or something doesn't mean that by default you have a PIMS in place. All right. So with that off the plate, let us go ahead. So this is the topics that will be covered. It's extremely exhaustive. I don't know how I'm going to manage. It's like 60 odd plus slides. So stay with me on this. Quite a few things about PIMS and ISO 27701 and the integration and the international data privacy laws, and then of course the key takeaways. So in case you are many of you, as I know a few of you, and you are already a CISA, CSSPs. So with our webinars, you can apply for one CP. You're required to give like 20 or CPs in a year. This will give you the opportunity to have at least one added to your repertoire, to your pocket. So you can gain CP webinars with this. So stay till the end. It's very important that you stay till the end. In case there's an audit inquiry, we have to confirm that you have stayed till the end. All right. Now in our YouTube channel, we have like almost 1,500 subscribers. That's in our field, that is one of the highest. All right. Not with a music channel or something, not on that line, but we are not a music channel. So from the compliance arena, compared to most of the companies, we are having one of the highest subscriber rates, 1,500 plus subscribers. And we have that's a YouTube channel, youtube.com/see VISTA InfoSec, and you can search also in YouTube and you'll see our videos. Do subscribe to the videos, to the channel, and you can see new content as it's hosted. And while you're at it, do not forget to click on the bell icon so that you get the notifications. Come on, we do so much work, the least you can do is subscribe, right? So so do subscribe and make the most of it. So going ahead, these are the list of our past webinars, and this is what you'll see on our webinar channel, on our YouTube channel. Our list of past webinars, it's quite a bit, guys, quite a bit. In case there is any other site having as much content, drop it in the comment section, whether it's on YouTube or in this thing, and I'd love to see who else is doing better. Again, it's not a question of one man up, one-upmanship types. We're just proud of the work that you've been putting up for the community. So look at the amount of content. It's all free. It's all free for you. So yeah, quite a few. CCPA, GDPR, HIPAA, PCI DSS, RBI directions. It's on and on. So NCACC compliance that we did last month for Saudi market. This is literally the 50th webinar. We're on the golden jubilee part, and so I'm glad you're there on a 50th celebration. So as we go along, do type in your queries in the query box. One of the main reasons why our webinars do so good is because there is a live Q&A, right? That's one of the key attractions. So do drop in your queries in the query box on this live webinar. In case you're watching on YouTube, drop it in YouTube comment section, and I will respond back to you. And in case you have any queries that you feel I can take up for future sessions, do drop me a line, because this PIMS session was because of people requesting for these webinars now for the subject. Now coming to the next thing, that's a brief about me. Most of the people already know me, and this is my background. I run my own. I've been in this industry for almost like 30 odd years, and you can see my, we are there, and there is so many, subjects that you work on. And of course, I have my own company, VISTA InfoSec, and we've been there in this industry for like 17 odd years, and we do many things, and we are there in many countries across the world. We're there in Canada, US, Middle East, Singapore. We have our own office. UK, we have our own office. Africa, we have now come up, and India, of course, we are there. And these are who we are. So we are like a PCI, SSF, SSQPA, QSA. We are like empaneled, authorized for these audits. And that's the service portfolio. I'll quickly run you through this, just like 2 minutes more. And our certification services. And these are a few of the past clients that we have, past and current clients that we have. And you can see some of the largest companies in India and overseas. And of course, we are open for partnerships in case anyone, we're looking for partnerships across the globe. So do drop us a line in case you're looking up as a partner, as an individual basis, or as a company. Do drop us a line. And of course, for compliance professionals, especially for the PCI front, we are offering very, very exciting career opportunities. Do drop us a line, and we will take it ahead from there. So whether you are a fresher or a experienced person, our company is the way to go to. All right, so moving ahead, at the end of this, there will be a survey feedback, participation request. Do submit your valued feedback. It's very important for us. We put in a lot of time and little money for hosting these webinars for the community. Your feedback, whether it's critical, positive, or otherwise, is very, very useful for us. So do drop us a line, and in case you have any queries, do drop us a line, and I'll reply back to you. All right, so starting with the subject, international data privacy laws across the world. Out of 194 countries, 128 have legislations in place. Can you believe that? 128, and many of them have grown and are adding to it and doing something or the other. Almost all the developed countries and plus have data privacy laws in place. Okay, the data privacy laws in place, which is there, 128 out of 194 countries, which is in place, which is required to be done. In place, which is there, and many of them are already supplementing it. And this is a few of the international data privacy laws. Canada, there is PIPEDA, there is CCPA, CALOPA, so many. Literally, I don't know whether I should laugh about it or what, but in the US, almost I understand federalism, but they are coming up with, literally, states are coming up. Like New York has come up with its own data privacy law. Virginia state has come up now. California had already come up. So I really hope they come up with a singular data privacy law across all the states. Otherwise, it's going to be hell to pay. So anyway, going ahead, all these other countries, have these data privacy laws. India, as I said, we have something in the pipeline, and hoping to see the end of the tunnel. So let's hope for the best. And of course, the most prevalent would be GDPR in the UK, which is literally the torchbearer for the whole world for very effective data privacy laws in place in Europe and UK. So this is what the statistics are. So 66% of the 194 countries have legislation already in place, 10% with draft legislation, which includes India, 19% with no legislation, and for 5% countries we literally don't know. So these are the most popular, data privacy regulations across the world, whether it's GDPR, HIPAA, CCPA, PIPEDA, which is there in Canada, PDPA, which is there in Singapore, also there as a part of it in Malaysia and stuff, right? So coming to PIMS. what it's looking for, personal information management system. So some companies, some people I've seen will refer to it as a privacy information management system. Well, that's not the case, my friend. It is personnel information management system, and it's not personnel, it is personnel. Okay, PRSONNEL. Now personnel is employee, person, of course that's also an individual, but personnel may or may not be an employee. So personnel information management system, right? It's a technology that empowers individuals with the power to control over their own personal data, and that's what is the focal point of GDPR. So it is called as a technology, but it's not really a technology. You can have a PIMS without even having a tool in place, so it's not necessary. So anyway, provides user with a mechanism for aggregating, managing their own data, determining when and with whom the data is shared and processed. So again, sounds very much like GDPR, but okay, they are all on the same lines anyway. So again, in 2777701 also is a good set of guidelines, a great set of guidelines for setting up your own PIMS. It is basically a set of processes that demonstrates organizational control over the life cycle and the security of the collected personal information and its effective management. So again, it also helps management of personal information, even for so it is not just for this part, provides users the mechanism for aggregating and managing their own data. That is one thing, and the more important than that is for companies to demonstrate compliance with data protection legislations and for privacy and security of data. So it can identify the flow of personal data through a business process, activities, and effectively help in risk management and personal data processed or stored. So it is something which is like a process for which you can use technology also. It's not mandatory, but it is something that you can definitely think about, right? And the significance of a PMS. I hope I'm audible on this. If you have any auditory issues, do message me, and my tech team is on standby to help you, get over whatever issues you might be facing or sort out the issues that is there over here. So okay, so the core functioning of a PIMS is consent management. Basically, this is one of the crux of it, and most of the issues happen around consent. That is, the people have consented for their data to be used by your organization for 1 to 3 years, shared with XYZ people, and do 1 to 3 processing for it. So the core function of a PIMS is consent management, and it lets people allow, deny, or withdraw consent for access to third parties for access to their personal data. So again, as you can very well understand, it is more of a system for management of personal information, where the power to you is for the end users, and of course it's a system in place that organizations can demonstrate compliance also. So PIMS confirms that organizations meet specific requirements of privacy legislations. It builds a sense of confidence among users and helps reshape the relationship between consumers and organizations. And these are the benefits, whether it is data management, data security, privacy, governance, accessibility, upholding the rights of consumers, and of course regulatory compliance. And explaining the ISO 27701 standard. So it's an information security standard that guides organizations looking to establish systems to protect, to support compliance, and it's an extension to 27701. And this is very important. So for 27701, it is an add-on would be a 27701. So if you have already 27701 in place, if you already have 27001 in place, doing 27701, which is an ISO standard for PIMS, it becomes relatively easy, right? So just stay focused on that. It is very important. If you already have it 27701, it becomes very easy. I wouldn't say very easy, but it makes the path easy for you. Even certification becomes easy. Hello. Yeah. So some interesting questions coming up. Just give me a moment. I'll just breeze through it. So organization looking should get see, and now understand one more thing. Companies GDPR is not a certifiable standard. Okay, certifiable like an accredited certification. You can always go ahead with a company like ours. Like we do a lot of GDPR, so you can always go ahead with companies like us to get GDPR certified or compliant, audited, and all those things. Yes, but it's not a certifiable standard because it's a law. Now, if you have 27701, it increases your credibility for GDPR compliance also, because ISO 27701 is a certifiable standard. If you build your 27701, if you built your PIMS, using ISO 27701, it's got a lot of overlap with GDPR. So it gets easy for companies, to even demonstrate compliance, for GDPR. So it gets easy for companies to demonstrate certifiable compliance with GDPR. So then again, you need to have an existing 27001, certification. Very important. Please pay attention to the first point. For doing, you cannot just go for 27701, right? You'll have to wait for hello, yes, you'll have to ensure that you already have 27001 certification in place and then going for 27701. It cannot be done at the same time. It cannot be done in isolation. That is 27701 PIMS cannot be done in isolation. You have to do 27001 also. So 27701 is an extension of the requirements of 27001. Please pay attention to this. It is very important, right? So look at this point. I've highlighted it for you. Please ensure that this point is already in place. It's very important that you have this thing in place, and you're working on it likewise. Otherwise, it will all be a waste for you. Okay, so another, as I said earlier, also that is implementing 27701 and a PIMS is a very good way of demonstrating compliance with GDPR, because GDPR is not a certifiable standard. Now, again, I will not say yeah, okay. There is Alex. Alex has messaged me a question. What is the overlap of GDPR and 27701? Okay, good question. Maybe we can form a webinar on that next time. But yeah, thank you, Alex. So see, 27701 and GDPR. GDPR is much more comprehensive, I should say. Maybe we'll put up a white paper on that, and if you have signed up for the webinar, we'll send it to you. 27701 is not as comprehensive. There are overlaps, maybe like 70% overlap, 60 to 70% overlap between GDPR and ISO. Because see, ISO 27701, any sort of ISO standard gives a lot of leverage to a company to build their implementation as per their requirements. GDPR is more of a mandate. You don't really have a choice whether you want to do X or Y, right? So the play around area is very less, if not non-existent in GDPR, unless it is really not in scope. For example, the requirements for a controller are much higher than that of a processor. So with just a processor, like many of our clients, the controller requirements won't apply to you. So, but other than that, everything applies to you. So for demonstrating to customers, external and internal stakeholders, and to maintain effective privacy and information security systems. So it is very important that you do that, that you have some sort of a PIMS in place. Yes. So PMS specific ISO 27701 requirements. So understand, 27701 is aimed at providing requirements and guidance to establish, implement, maintain, and improve a privacy information management system. Here also they're using the word privacy. The earlier PIMS typically goes ahead with personal information management system. ISO 27701 looks at it more as a privacy information management system. I don't see what is a big deal or a difference, but yeah, there is a subtle difference in that. But still, anyway, so focused on both PII controllers and processors. So it is not just meant for either or, it is meant for both of them. So there are annexes where A and B are for controllers and processors, and C and C2F provide additional knowledge for setting up and operating an effective PIMS. So see, that's where it is. That is, if you are using GDPR and then if you're going at 27001, so it makes things very easy for you to do it, because there is a controller, processor, all these things are already there. The terminologies are already there, right? So clause 5, gives PIMS specific requirements and other information regarding the information security requirements in 27001. Yes, and then PIMS, the clause number 6, information security controls for PIMS is given in clause 6. So clause 5 gives PIMS specific requirements and other information regarding the information security requirements in ISO 27001, and clause number 6 is for 27002, whether you are a controller or a processor. Then clause number 7 gives additional PIMS guidance for PIMS for PII controllers, and clause 8 additional requirements for PII processors. So this is what we saw earlier. So 27701 PIMS specific requirements for 27701, which is more of the standard, and clause 6 is more of the specific guidance for actually implementing the control. If I can say that implementation guidance is given over there, and the roles, responsibilities, maybe some control suggestions are provided over there. And as we saw earlier, clause 7 is for PII controllers and clause 8 is for PII processors. And these are the PIMS specific ISO 27701 annexure-based controls. Annex A, as I said, is for PII controllers, Annex B for processors. This is all the applicable controls. So clause 5 and clause 6 that we saw earlier are more holistic. This is Annex A, NSP, which is typically there, as you've seen in any sort of ISO standard. So for example, in ISO 27701, whereas annexure A is a listing of all the requirements, and the preface or the ones before that is more of a listing of mandatory controls mostly. So Annex A is that, and Annex B is again for processors, and then Annex C maps the provisions of ISO 27701 against ISO 29100. Okay. Okay, there's a nice question that we have over here. I'm sorry for taking this offline, or not offline, moving out into the Q&A, but that's what people enjoy in our webinars. So the question by Mr. Jadhav is very nice. We are already PCI DSS and ISO 27001 certified, so do we need to implement ISO 27001 also? We are already PCI and 27000 certified, so do we need to implement 27701? Well, if you're handling any sort of personal data, first of all, none of the ISO standards are a mandate. Understand this, okay? Unless the government has said, for example, government in Africa, a few countries in Africa has done that to mandate PCI, and also unless that, but the actual structure of the standard PCI or ISO is not really regulatory by nature, right? It was then mandated by regulation, but they are not, language-wise, they are not really a law from the law perspective, right? So in case you're handling privacy data, so in that case, you need to have some sort of a PIMS in place. Now, if you're having your clients in UK and EU, European Union, they need to have GDPR in place. Now, as I said earlier, GDPR is not a certifiable standard. You can still get audited by us, and we can implement to you or give to you at the end of it, in case you pass, a letter of confidence or a certificate of confidence or a compliance certificate, as much as you want to call it. But end of the day, you will know the ground realities, that is you're not doing what is really required. So that's where, so if you have ISO, if you have implemented GDPR and taken up the controls into ISO 27001, that would 27701, then it would be a great thing to do. Okay, these are a few of the controls for the specific for controllers, and look at the requirements. As you can see, it is very much so. In case you are, I've been talking about GDPR for a long time, guys. In case you don't have much of an idea of what is it, go to YouTube, search for a channel, VISTA InfoSec. There's a playlist on GDPR, and you're really going to have a ball of a time. Everything is for free. All right. So you can just look at these control requirements. It almost sounds like GDPR to me. What do you think? What is your comment? My audience, my dear audience, whether it is online or on YouTube, what is your first view when you saw this? What do you think about it? Do drop it in the comment section below of the video or in the chat box. It would really help to understand your view. So when I look at it, it sounds more like GDPR. And they've done a great job of taking the control sections from there. It reduces the rework. So contracts and PIA process, privacy impact assessment like a DPIA that we have discussed earlier. And of course, the joint PII controller, which is there, which is required to be done, and the records related to PII processing. And look at the see section 7, which talks about section 7.3, which talks about obligations to PII principles. So determining and then fulfilling, determining and then providing information to PII professionals, principals. Very interesting. And then goes ahead to providing mechanism to modify or withdraw consent, to object to PII processing, access correction, erasure, which is again there very closely in GDPR also. And okay, Miss, okay, I hope I can take a name, Susan. She's messaged me that whether there is a document which parallels, the requirements between GDPR and ISO. So you've asked for a document for GDPR and parallel between GDPR and ISO 27701. I'll tell you what will release a webinar series, not a webinar series, if a webinar possible, yeah, or otherwise white paper for you guys. How does that sound? And because you've attended a webinar, you will get first access to it. All right. So that will be my take for you. So thanks for the insight, Susan. That was really helpful. All right. So handling requests for changes to the requirements, and then automated decision making, limiting the collection of data, limiting the processing of data. So only collecting what is really required to be done, and limiting the processing only as per the requirements of the client or from the controllers is required to be done. Accuracy and quality, maintaining the accuracy and quality of the data. Accuracy is again an extremely important point even in GDPR, which very nicely 27701 standard has also taken ahead. And then minimization of the data only as per the requirement to store. Then de-identification or deletion at the end of processing, more like anonymization, if I can say that. Handling the temporary files, retention again is an extremely important point in any standard, whether it's ISO or PCI, SOC 2, GDPR, and it is carried forward here also. That is retention of data. How long do you want to retain and why? And then at the end of it, disposal of the data once it has reached its end of line. So there is again sharing, transfer, and disclosure objectives. So we have this identify basis for PII transfers between jurisdiction. Now, there are some clear-cut requirements in GDPR where it is said what you can do and what you cannot do with the data, whom you can send, which countries you can send, and not. So they've carried forward over here, but in this standard, they've not really, identify for what I can call as a safe to send countries. So basically, what it means, my friends, is that countries where there is a very strong data privacy laws in place and in a good relations with other countries, there they say it is safe to send. For example, Singapore. And there are countries where they say it is not very safe to send, so you have to be extra careful. So unfortunately, from what I've seen last, even India is there and a lot of other countries are there. So I'm sure that the situation will change in India very soon. But no such, from what I've seen in the standard 27701, no such mandates are passed out from the standard ISO 27701. But then I believe that if you are making a PIMS based on ISO 27001 and GDPR, so in that case, that stipulations will carry forward. And then annexure B, this is for the processors, PII processors. Again, look at it. It starts first on the customer agreement, organization's purpose, and what the data can be used for, marketing, cross-use, up-use, whatever you can say. Then infringing the instructions. In case there is a issue there, how will that be managed? Customer obligations, which could be your customer as the customers of the processor. And then records related to PII processing. Very, very important to be able to prove your point and not just talk in air. And then obligations to PII principles, the temporary files, how to manage the temporary files, then return, transfer, or disposal of PII, then PII transmission controls, which is there. And then we come up with the basis for the PII transfer between jurisdiction. But understand, the tone over here is more of a submissiveness. Now, I'm not saying this in a derogatory manner. Don't get me wrong. When I look at 8.5.1, okay, basis for PII transfer between jurisdiction, and let us move to the earlier slide. Here they go. Identify basis for PII transfer between jurisdiction. So it says, look at the language. The organization shall identify and document the relevant basis for transfers between PII between jurisdiction. The organization shall specify and document. So they have to do this. They have to find out and do it. An international organization to which PII can possibly be transferred. But now let us move to the language of the processor. Look at the language. The organization shall inform the customer, which could be the PII principals or the controller, in a timely manner of the basis of PII transfer between jurisdiction and of any intended changes in this regard, so the customer has the ability to object to such changes or terminate the contract. Are you getting what I'm saying? The processor, the submissiveness is there to the contract that is signed between the processor and the controller, or the PII principal and the controller. Yes. Okay. Rakhi, she's also submitted the same question. What are the differences and similarities between GDPR and ISO 27701? So, okay, this is like the third time I'm getting this request. And as I said earlier, Rakhi, we will be shortly maybe do the next webinar on that, or maybe make a white paper for everybody and send it across. So the differences are too much, and not too much, I mean very exhaustive, and I cannot complete it in the next 10 minutes by when I have to close the webinar. So I'll continue with on the current on PIMS using ISO 27701, and the next we will send you the information on 27701 and GDPR. Right. So records of PII disclosure to third parties. Again, this is more from the submissiveness. So look at it. The organization shall reject a request of PII disclosure that are not legally binding, shall notify the customer, shall disclose of any subcontractor, shall only engage a subcontractor to PII according to customer contract. So everything is submissive to the contract that the processor has with the principal or the controller, right? So why I'm using or controller? That's a good question again, Alex. Okay, see what happens is that that's a good one, because the one level up of a processor need not necessarily be a controller. It might think, okay, the data comes to the controller and then he sends it to the processor. Yeah, you might be right, but is that the only relation which is there in place? Because let's assume I'm a processor, I'm a very big processor. Okay, very big company, like, you know, I can be like a Tech Mahindra types, very big company, and I can further, I'm not saying that they are, but I'm just saying it in a very in a very like an example way. But this XYZ company, very big company, and they are like a processor of many telecoms and banks and all those things, but they might further subcontract to other organizations to speed up work and increase cost effectiveness. So in that case, if my company is outsourcing to some other company, we are a processor and we are outsourcing to other processors. So in that case, my vendors, one level up is me, but I'm not a controller. So I cannot say that for a processor, one level up is necessarily a control rate. It can either be another processor, also called now as a PCI, like a PII principle, or it can be the controller, right? So that is why the terminology of PII principle is used. Now, benefits of implementing, again, demonstrate the next level data protection is one way of demonstrating and builds the trust, because now it's a certifiable standard and supports compliance with other privacy regulations. It's the industry's best standard and practice to help comply. So understand something now. Okay, I'm just sharing an experience. Like as a company, we are also into PCI DSS, and many companies call us to do both 27001 and PCI DSS. Now, when they do that, what we do is that we use the annexary controls of 27701, but then instead of fully adopting 27702 guidelines, what we do is that we use the controls of PCI DSS and parallel them with ISO. So in that case, the implementation curve and the total management also reduces for the clients, right? So you can implement this 27701 also in the same way. You can look at the mandatory clauses, and then for the guidance of implementing of those controls, you can always use a standard like a GDPR and do it yourself, or you can call us. Okay. Okay, flexible to accommodate specific privacy requirements, because it's a ISO standard, so it's not really hard and fast, and it's flexible. It is very versatile, so it allows you to play around with the requirements and work with different models with different standards. So you can form a PIMS using ISO 27001, using the implementation framework of a GDPR and CCPA, and we have done that. So that's also very well possible. Integrates with other standards. So anyway, it is plugging into 27701, 27001. So it is like an add-on for it adds on to it. Value add-on is there. So what about the integration of 27001 to implement and to improve data privacy laws? So integrating it will be one of the most efficient and effective ways of maintaining and improving compliance. Because again, I'm saying, if you're trying to do this on your own, because see, let me give an example. GDPR, it's a very big standard, and literally speaking, when a team made the checklist for implementation, it was more than 200 plus requirements. But then yeah, so in GDPR, again, there is more than 200 plus requirements. So then if you're plugging that in into 27701, it increases the effectiveness and also the acceptability of your work, right, of your standard. And again, businesses can leverage the benefits. That is, you have now 27701, by default you'll have 27001, and by default then you'll end up with GDPR in place. So it makes a whole lot of business sense to go ahead with 27701 for your organization. So the key takeaways over here, and I'm very happy to say this, is that the acceptability of ISO in the enterprise is very high, right? So when you're plugging another standard into it, it really adds value, and even the clients would be more happy with your 27001 implementation, because one of the key issues with 27001 is there is absolutely no relevance or mention of HR based sorry, of privacy based controls into 27001. Now, organizations who are less confident with the implementation will find the integration of PIMS and ISO 27701 is very, very useful with 27001. Really will help you to manage the privacy in our organization better. Now, the combined framework will work as a guide for integrating security and privacy governance across the organization. So because it's an ISO standard, right? Otherwise, it all becomes okay. As I was saying, I skipped that example. It also depends, guys. Let me be a bit personal now. It also depends on how you want to do this, right? Like, see, as a company, we never compromise on anything. We simply, if the clients want to compromise, we simply say, please look for someone else, because we can't compromise on what we're doing. The work has to be going in this 1, 2, 3 manner, and you better do it. Otherwise, people can just do it on their own or whatever. But then what happens is that GDPR, for example, is when we made a checklist on that, it was almost maybe 200 odd requirements, big and small combined. But then we have also seen, when we have audited other companies, that they have boiled it down, literally made it so vague. And companies have made a framework of say 30, 40 requirements, and yes, we are GDPR compliant. So when a company who's been very exhaustive and comprehensive in doing it, GDPR, and someone else who's cut corners, both are saying that they're GDPR compliant, it becomes like a unfair playing ground. And that is where 27701 helps in leveling the playing ground. So then you plug your controls into 27701 requirements, and the very capable auditors, of course, get audited by a good company on 27701 in case you want to. We are always there to help you with the consulting and the advisory on that, even the pre-assessments. And then once you get audited by a good company, they know what you have in place now. So it really helps organizations. So I really hope that helped you. Okay, one sec. Oh yes, again, good question by Raki. She says, as we do the gap assessment for various ISO standards, is it recommended to perform gap assessment for ISO 27701? Yes, it is. If you're implementing it, that is. And you call it gap assessment the first time. After that, it's an internal audit process, and you are mandated to do it. Okay, a gentle reminder about the survey, guys. Please do fill up the survey at the end of the webinar. Your opinion is very, very important to us, and this is our YouTube page. Please do share, subscribe, and click on the bell icon. It keeps us encouraged. And Facebook page is there. You can contact us on there. And LinkedIn, we have a page. And what happens is that please ensure that you have subscribed. The reason being, we are regularly, means every week, every 2-3 days, there is some content or the other which is being made live. So really, it will help if you do it. And that's the contact information. In case there is something that we can help you out with, do drop us a line, and we are there with you on this, right? So I really hope you enjoyed the webinar today. Do drop us your comment, feedback, suggestions, and I look forward to seeing you in the next month. Until then, stay safe and have a wonderful day ahead. Bye-bye.